Why aren't we talking more about Trump's business deals with the Saudis? Asked Philip Bump over the Washington Post. Finally! I have been ranting about this on this program for, what, years? And, I mean, it is so obvious to me. Now, you know, with a caveat, I might be wrong, but this is my belief. If you look at the timeline of what happened with Saudi Arabia, with Mohammed bin Salman, the guy who's running Saudi Arabia right now, there was the original king who started Saudi Arabia back in the day, back in the 20s or 30s or whenever it was, modern Saudi Arabia. He had a son, and his son was the king before. In fact, he's still the king, King Salman. He has a son, and his son, who's often referred to as MBD, was next in line for the throne. He was going to be the next king. MBS, the guy who is now running the country, was merely one of 30-some-odd princelings who were kind of jockeying for position. So while Trump is president, Jared Kushner flies over to Saudi Arabia and stays up late into the evening with MBS, who is not running the country at the moment, and I believe gives him top-secret intelligence that Trump has stolen that identifies who are the allies of the son of the king and who are the opponents of MBS. And there's a lot of overlap there, I'm sure. So Jared goes over, they stay up until 2 in the morning, famously. I mean, this is in the news, for a couple of days, drinking and talking or whatever they're doing. Jared comes back home, and a week or two later, or shortly thereafter, you'll have to look it up for the timelines. I've written a couple of pieces about this on Hartmann Report. You can find it with a Google search. I don't have it in front of me, but shortly thereafter, MBS organizes this thing where he basically pulls a bunch of Saudi princes and royal family folks into a fancy hotel, and with armed guards, and locks them down and basically holds them at gunpoint for a week or two, forces a number of them to sign over literally billions of dollars to him, forces them to give him essentially their votes to become the leader of the country, and basically runs a coup, deposes MBD, and MBS becomes the leader of Saudi Arabia. Then shortly after that, he murders Jamal Khashoggi and dismembers him and makes his body disappear. And again, Jared goes over to Saudi Arabia and they hang out, and it's all good with Trump. No problem. Or maybe it was before that happened. Anyhow, I may have the sequence of events wrong, but it sure looks to me like MBS would not be running that country were it not for Jared Kushner and Donald Trump. And that's why, as soon as the Trump presidency ended, two things happened. One was that MBS, over the objections of the investment advisors for the Saudi investment fund, which is like massive amounts, hundreds of billions, maybe over $1 trillion, that $2 billion out of that fund was given to Jared Kushner, a guy who has never run an investment fund in his life. He's a slumlord from New Jersey or New York. I mean, that was the extent of his business. And he inherited that from his father, who was a professional grifter who went to prison for being a grifter. And then Trump pardoned him. So MBS gives Jared $2 billion. And now MBS is funneling piles of money, and nobody knows exactly how much it is, but if he's given tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to golfers to play in his live golf tours, which were created out of this same fund right after Trump left office. And Trump has now done, I believe, 3 of these, and there's another one coming up next month, or maybe 2 months down the road. That, Trump is apparently making hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, who knows, from these things, and it looks to me like it's a money laundering operation. And everybody is like ignoring this. I mean, you've got the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, the Republican running this thing for a year now, has been trying to dig up dirt on the Biden crime family because they think that Hunter Biden made $10 million, getting sweetheart deals from foreign governments while his daddy was vice president. Well, if that's true and it's criminal, prosecute him. But that's $10 million. Jared got $2 billion. Donald has gotten, I would bet, almost anything, hundreds of millions, if not billions, from Saudi Arabia. What the hell is going on with this? So along comes Philip Bump in yesterday's Washington Post, or maybe it's today's Washington Post, and he writes, the Republican-led House Oversight Committee has spent most of the past 5 months hard at work trying to link the Biden family to millions of dollars proffered by foreign business interests before Biden became president. And, then he goes on to say, Trump is sucking up to the Saudis with his live golf tours over the opposition of the 9/11 families. And when a reporter stuck a microphone in Trump's face and said, there's a lot of 9/11 families who are really upset that you're giving the Saudis all this publicity. I mean, Trump is not just giving the Saudis publicity. He's calling on his followers to boycott the PGA, the Professional Golfers Association, and go with LIV, the Saudis, a dictatorship. And when they asked Trump about this and stuck a microphone in his face, Trump goes, well, I don't know much about the 9/11 families. That's a verbatim quote. So what's the deal? I hope Jack Smith is looking into this.